before we kickstart the panel, maybe I think it would be useful for the audience to find out a little bit about the various panelists. So if I could maybe start with David, if each one of you could briefly introduce yourselves and let the audience know where in the value chain you sit and what some of the challenges are that you're facing. But maybe starting with David, what do you do and where do you fit into the value chain?
Thank you. I'm from Apps Arabia. We're part of the 2454 Abu Dhabi Government Initiative in Media Content Creation. Our objective is to help create a sustainable industry for app development in this part of the world. So where do we sit? We are here to back great ideas for apps by putting money into the market, helping people with ideas to make money out of their ideas with apps, leading to great apps for consumers, of course, and at the same time helping the developers to grow their businesses by producing very good quality, world-class apps and helping the market to find the right price points by injecting cash into the market. So the biggest thing for us is that the apps have to be commercially viable because it's only if people make money that we achieve sustainability. So that's what we do.
Thank you. On to Miltos.
My name is Miltos Vitalis. I'm a general manager for MENA for a company called Velti. Velti is a mobile advertising and marketing leader. We are a US company specializing in how operators, media, brands, and also retail shops can utilize the mobile channels in order to target advertising. So this is my background.
All right, thank you, Miltos. On to Samer.
My name is Samer Meri, and I'm the VP for Products and Services in Mobile. And I look after all products and services for the consumer, including the data, VAS, and content. And recently we've added actually the ecosystem for applications and for developers into our portfolio of services. And later in the discussion, we're going to be talking about how mobile is trying to help and build a complete ecosystem for developers, trying to help them out, develop applications, localized applications, as well as integration with the payment gateways of the manufacturers, device manufacturers ecosystem.
Well, thank you, Samer. Khaled.
My name is Khaled Nsebe. I look after the data services business for Zain Jordan. And that encompasses the range of data products from access broadband to content, apps, value-added services, messaging. What we are primarily focusing on is trying to incorporate the data services portfolio within the main customer proposition and try and have a unified proposition in the market with the main service, which is the voice service right now. And build a continuous, evolving, short-term and long-term strategic revenue stream for Zain Jordan.
All right. Well, to kick us off, I'm probably going to be one of the most critical voices here and play devil's advocate. I'm not a big believer in app stores, to be honest. And the reason why I'm not a big believer in telco-operated app stores is app stores really have been around for a decade. If you think about, apps essentially have existed in the form of games, and I think typically 50 to 60% of applications downloaded in app stores, whether it's on the iTunes App Store, are games. And game downloads have been in existence for a very, very long time. There's certainly content. There are ringtones, wallpapers, screensavers. All that has also existed for a very, very long time, kind of the multimedia personalization bits. They've existed for a long time. And if you look at all the mobile portals that are out there, all the 3G portals that are out there and that have been out there since the arrival of 3G, or even before that with Edge and 2G, these mobile content portals haven't been particularly successful. Why should app stores be any different? So, maybe my first question to Samer, one, what's your view on that? Am I being too pessimistic here? Have you launched your app store and how's it going?
I think you are, actually. To be very frank, the way we see it is the role of traditional content downloads is way of the past. I think all the operators has been recently noticing that the traditional revenues coming from content are in continuous decline. And that's due to the fact that customers are no longer needing services such as, if I would give an example, like traditional SMS services from whether it was stock, let's say stock codes or weather news. All of these traditional services were delivered by the operator using the operator core network elements. However, now all of these traditional contents are completely going to those OTT players, such as developers, such as if we look at it, you have different competitors. OS like Apple, like Android, even Facebook and Google are trying to capture part of your revenues. So the way we saw it is, first we're trying at least to maintain, as operators, try to maintain those revenues within the operator. We as operators should be looking at developers ecosystem and app store ecosystems for the following reasons. I believe that helping out creating localized content would be a primary reason. Second of all, as payments, as our colleague Dr. Colin mentioned, that payment gateways or credit card penetration, to put it in that way, is very low in the Middle East, specifically at least in Saudi. Third of all, actually you have hundreds of thousands of applications available in different app stores. Visibility is one very important factor that we believe the operator could help developers shine their applications and market their applications. Now, from customer perspective, instead of going to multi-store looking for multi-applications, you will have one store that customers will be able to download localized content as per the operator's control, rather than giving it to different iOS app stores. This is just a brief of why we believe operators app store will help push from one side developers communities and developers themselves, and on the other side help customers reach the right content.
Okay. So have you launched an app store?
We have launched recently, and actually not recently, it was 10/10/2010. We've launched our developer community, and it's basically a complete ecosystem where developers can come and register and share their ideas, share their applications. We're trying to help them out by developing, doing training, developing their skills as well. And in February, we've launched our app store, which contains currently free apps, where people can come and download free apps for their mobile, except of course for the two we would like to closed ecosystems, which are the Apple and the Android. Mainly it's for Java, Symbian apps.
Well, same question to Khalid. One, do you have your own app store? And two, do you think operators should be in the app store business?
To answer your first point, yes, we have our app store. We launched our app store just under 6 months ago, where we're just offering free apps for the moment. And it's on a trial basis for customers to go and browse and download as many apps as possible. It's still a very generic, unlocalized app store. And obviously we have plans to actually localize it, Arabize it, and customize it to Zain based on what we think customers want and based on obviously the data that we have. I'm going to agree with my colleague Samer. I think, but from a, I'm going to come at it from a different angle. We have seen voice revenues decline. We have seen operators successfully launch data and mobile broadband. What happens after 5 to 10 years, or maybe less than that, when even data becomes very commoditized and revenues are very eroded from there. Where do you generate your extra revenues? So I know that right now the revenues coming in from apps and content is very small, and it's very hard to actually see the light based on the investments that you're putting in. But on a long-term, more strategic effect, you need to actually start thinking, well, what are the different services that I need to offer? And I think operators haven't done a particularly good job in the past at actually tackling the content question. One of the points that Samir was saying is opening up collaboration and aggregation rather than having a closed wall garden. And that's the model that we think will work. You need to open up a platform and make it available across all devices, all operating systems, get all the application developers the capability to actually plug in their application and create enough mass of apps to drive demand. Today, I don't see enough. One of the reasons why iTunes is very successful, or on the Apple proposition is very successful, is because there's a huge catalog of applications, and the quality is quite superior. So I think operators haven't had the chance to actually take a good crack at it and make this a successful end-to-end proposition that has a seamless customer experience that starts off from the handset, has a seamless experience in terms of billing, and provides the customer with a wide range of apps and content. So I think this is the short answer is yes. I believe that operators need to get into that, but it's using different methodologies such as aggregation, collaboration, open platforms in iOS.
Very interesting. So you're making essentially we don't want to be a dumb pipe, damn it. We want to remain smart pipes, if you will, and enable the ecosystem. Therefore, we need to be in the game and add some additional value above and beyond just providing connectivity. But you touch on a very interesting point, which is, how can we make money off apps? It's a very, very tough one. And that's a question maybe I should pose to David, since he's financing apps actively in the market these days. Are your apps making money? And if they aren't making money, how can we overcome that?
Let's just say it's early days, but they're going to make money. Can I just sort of introduce a slightly different angle here, which is it depends how you look at this. I don't work for an operator. I've never worked for an operator, and I don't claim to know the detail of how an operator works. But you could look at it from one angle. How can the operators protect their revenue streams and grow their businesses and make money? You can look at it from another way, which is the only way I can look at it, which is what does the market need? Okay? And if I look at that from my position, we've got great developer tools, SDKs and stuff like that. We've got great app stores out there that do a lot. You could argue that consumers have an emotional bond with their device, not with their carrier. So consumers would prefer to use a app store from Nokia or from BlackBerry or from Apple than they would from any operator. You look at this and you go, we've got the ability to build great apps, we've got the ability to distribute great apps on the whole. The things that we don't have, which the market needs, are payment mechanisms. To Colin's point, that's a very important thing that this market needs, is better payment mechanisms. We need the ability to stand out, market and promote things. So marketing is a massive opportunity. And with marketing, an important part of marketing is consumer intelligence. I'm very, very frustrated with the lack of information available to me to make better decisions about making investments, to make better decisions about the technical architecture of apps, to make better decisions about consumer needs, wants, and preferences. Now, in other parts of the world, operators have the luxury of knowing more about their customers, their consumers, whether they're business consumers or people as opposed to companies, because there are tariffs and things. This market, I'm led to believe, is very much a prepay market, a pay-as-you-go market. And I know from going and buying a phone in a shop in a mall that they might ask for your passport copy. I might be going there to buy 5 phones for my wife, my children, my maid, for example. Okay? that store does not know that there are women and children involved. They think it's me, a sort of almost middle-aged, British expat. So all those 5 phones are attributed to a demographic that's incorrect. The other thing that I believe, and I may be wrong, but I believe is that these retail outlets do not necessarily do stuff with those passport copies. They don't go in a database, they're not used, they're probably still lying on the floor in those stores. So what would be really, really valuable to me is to get intelligence about who is using what phone, on what tariff, in what way, demographic information, consumption intelligence. Are they downloading through Wi-Fi? Are they downloading through 3G? Are they, what sort of apps are they buying? What sort of handsets do they use? How often do they upgrade their handsets? Who are they calling? What sort of apps do they use? This is the sort of stuff that I want to know. And in other parts of the world, it's very easy for operators to do that. But I believe in this part of the world, it's very difficult for those reasons I just described. But that would be something, that market intelligence. But it's the points that Colin made were about localized content. Absolutely. I would love operators to get involved in sponsoring apps, helping us to monetize these apps, helping us with the bundles and things that you've both talked about to distribute those apps and promote those apps, and the payment mechanisms as well. This is the sort of thing I would like to see. Personally, I don't want to see an operator building an app store. What I want to see them doing is building a portal where they distribute apps, market and promote apps, perhaps on an affiliate model where they get redirected to an app store to download those apps. I don't see why operators need to reinvent the wheel in building something that already exists when there's enormous amounts of risk involved in that, in branding, for example. If I was to download an app from an app store from an operator and got a virus on my phone, which went around to all my contacts on my phone, I would think very badly of that operator, of that brand. If you don't own the SDKs, how can you own the quality, is my question. So I think all these things need to be considered when we debate the issue about whether operators should have app stores.
Right. But you make some very good arguments, and I think it connects to Colin's speech earlier. Operators can play a very constructive role in terms of enabling payment. You mentioned the marketing bit, and then thirdly, customer intelligence. Yeah. On the customer intelligence bit, having worked at Telefonica, I can tell you there's a lot of information that we have sitting in our CRM databases, but accessing that information is not necessarily the easiest thing. Although theoretically, yes, telco operators, even in development world, have good access. Moving on just briefly to, getting back to the monetization question. And one way to make money with apps is obviously to sell them, but then one other way is to do mobile advertising. Velti is one of the world leaders and one of the pioneers of the mobile advertising world. What do you think, Miltos, is the potential of mobile advertising in the MENA region?
First of all, to a little bit comment on what my colleagues have been saying. Actually, we have 2 aspects on apps. The one aspect is differentiation. So an operator may want to sponsor an app because they want to combine their image with localization or some kind of local offering, which is a very valid point. So brand awareness, building and differentiating brand based on apps is a very valid point. This is not generating directly money from the apps. It's generating indirectly through the brand enhancement that is causing. If we go to the actual monetization part, so how are you going to increase your revenues out of apps? There are until now basically 2 options. The one is sell the app or sell something in the app. The other is let somebody else sponsor the app, which is the advertiser. Now, in terms of selling the apps, obviously the enablement of payments from the operator and the integration of the different big application stores into the operator billing systems in order to be able, so the customer can go and basically purchase app in an easy way, is something very important. Actually, there are companies who are doing that now. So there are companies who are actually doing apps for selling apps for operators. So there are companies who are basically building an app. You can download it from the App Store of Apple, for example, and then you can go through this app, and because this app is, this company development is integrated to the different operator billing systems, you can pay for the actual app that you're downloading from the App Store by the operator. Yeah. So a kind of intermediate. So there is something like that happening now. So yes, it's very important to have a payment facilitation. That's the one thing. The other thing is about advertising. So coming to what David was saying, actually the importance of having information about the customer who is using the app is because this would enable to facilitate the advertisers to really go and target this customer. And target this customer in the way this is not the standard way of that we're doing advertising today on, for example, internet world, but really know a lot about the behavior of the customer. So the operator has the information. It's not only about demographics. Demographics is something that you need to gather. You need to have a kind of permission-based information gathering where you need to gather the information from the customer. But there's another aspect of it which is there with the operator, and it's very important, which is actually the spending habits of the client. So the operator knows at any point in time what is the disposable, or can have a very valid assumption of the disposable, or not disposable income, but of the income of the subscriber, or how much he wants to spend. And this is a very valuable information for the advertiser. So what we are doing as Velti is basically we're actually enabling both parties, so the advertiser and the operator, to be able to monetize apps. How are we doing that? We are offering SDKs to developers that they can integrate into their apps, and then basically we take these SDKs, enable the developers also to know more about the clients who are using the apps, and with this information we can go to the advertisers and sell more targeted advertising. So basically we enable the complete ecosystem of the monetizing the advertising in apps. And this is something which I believe it's very important, because this is something that's going to be the next revenue stream, one of the next revenue stream based on advertising. So apps for me, to answer the initial question and close it, I don't believe that the operator makes sense to go, agreeing with David, and develop an app store from scratch. What you need to do is identify the opportunities to really offer whatever kind of attributes or knowledge he has about the customer, about the relationship with the customer, so that the people who are actually offering the applications can utilize that and be able to cash out from that.
Okay, so from a marketing, customer intelligence standpoint. But kind of all the points that you're bringing up suggest, hey, the operator should maybe just take an enabling role, maybe not actually operate the app store. You mentioned the point of providing a seamless user experience. Now, telco operators are not that good when it comes to providing seamless user experience. And to be honest, device vendors are not very good at that either. There's only one, Apple, if we're being honest. Okay, Android, Google, I think is doing a phenomenal job as well in terms of user experience. But it wasn't until 2007 when Apple introduced the first iPhone that you had a user experience that got people excited about downloading apps, using content, and consuming content on their mobiles. So, you still believe that telco operators would be well positioned to? No, you have to say that since you work for a telco operator. A loaded question.
Look, I still believe that the customer experience is key. One of the reasons why a lot of operators haven't managed to get a lot of usage and awareness on content is because of the whole value chain being so fragmented or so divided up. So I think a lot of our operators have matured, have understood that their role is an enabling role. They need to actually foster into the content, into the apps ecosystem. They need to foster the handset manufacturers, the iOS guys with them, as well as the application providers. And David was talking about actually being as open as possible with our partners. And I think in the past, operators haven't been able to do that as much with the information that they had. But I think when you foster this ecosystem, as an operator, you probably have an advantage in being able to get both together, share as much information as possible, and agree on a direction. And I think it's not easy. It's definitely something that needs to happen over time. And if you're looking at, for example, the Android OS, that's probably an easier platform to actually do it on because it's open. Other platforms are not as much. So I think aggregation and open platforms is definitely something operators should try and focus on as much as possible, and forge this value chain on an end-to-end basis. At the end of the day, all of them are in for the same objective, which is getting as much revenue out of this business as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the key challenges is the pricing of mobile data. It's very, very expensive to actually download an app. So even if I wanted to download a Twitter or a Facebook app on whether it's the Android store, BlackBerry World, the iTunes App Store, unless I have a data plan, and even regular data plans are very, very expensive. What are you doing with your app store? Is it free to download, Samer?
Before I answer this question, I would like to comment on both David and Miltos. I think personally that monetization is key to the whole ecosystem, whether you are a developer or an operator or a consumer. Not a consumer, actually, to be at least part of the value chain. If we look now at the figures, which I don't have a really accurate number, but I think over 60% of all the applications downloaded are free of charge. And some of them are ad supported, which is being supported by advertising, and the other part is completely free of charge. I think to continue excel in this ecosystem, monetization is key, and I believe personally, this is my personal opinion, that advertising will be the main key driver for these free apps. And I truly believe what Miltos said is integrating an advertising platform along with the applications, either by creating an SDK with certain APIs which really connects the developer to certain key information, whether on the location of the customer or the expenditure habits or about destination to cause, depending on what kind of information you require. I think that is key. The other part where operators are not really, I mean, at least I'm talking on mobile side, we're not really trying to compete head to head with manufacturer or handset app stores, but rather complementing on them, you know, trying to be able to be part of their ecosystem. First of all, by offering a new channel for those customers to be able to download applications other than the handset manufacturer app store. As well as, if what David said is basically actually, it triggered something. This is what we're actually doing. We're not trying to compete. We're trying to complement, offer another channel. And by offering this channel also to be able for the developers to integrate the network elements of any operator into their apps. And of course, at the other side, facilitate for those customers to download these applications. Now, going back to your questions, I think majority, if we look at the behavior of people using, which is a funny thing, at least in the Middle East, the customer behavior in the Middle East is completely different from Europe. Europe and the US, people commute a lot. They go on trains, they go on buses. However, in the Middle East, it's a completely different ballgame. People, they drive their cars every day to work. They go to work, they finish from work, they go back home. And majority of the usage, which is surprisingly, I think it's over 80% of people using their mobile is at home.
Okay.
So I wouldn't bet too much on the fact that the prices of the data bundles are expensive at the right time. In some countries in the Middle East, they're becoming extremely cheap. Now you can buy a 1 GB, for example, at least for Saudi, you can buy it for 41 riyals, which is less than almost $11. It's a 2 GB. It's not 1 GB. It's actually 2 GB. And you can download hundreds of applications with this amount of data. And even the pay-per-use tariffs are going down, extremely going down. So I don't really think, and taking into consideration that the main download or the main activities of the customer playing with their handset is at home. Availability of Wi-Fi now, the penetration of Wi-Fi is extremely increasing in homes. So I don't think that's a hurdle in this ecosystem.
A very good point. David, your reaction?
First point I'd make is, Andre, you mentioned one platform being particularly good as a user experience and downloading and consuming apps. I'd say watch out for Microsoft, because the Windows marketplace is pretty phenomenal, and the experience on the actual operating system on the device is also pretty phenomenal. So that's good news that there's somebody else now coming in that's got that sort of experience. My view is that free apps are very popular for obvious reasons. It helps overcome issues like piracy, for example. I tend to slightly disagree in that I think that the future for monetization of apps is going to be from in-app purchases and sponsorship, but not advertising, actually, in my opinion, because the numbers just don't add up. I've looked into this in terms of evaluating which projects I invest in, and the ones that rely heavily on in-app advertising are not commercially viable. You have to have tens of thousands of monthly active users in order to make anything other than negligible revenues from in-app advertising. I've done some maths here, and it just doesn't work. And the reality is that most apps don't achieve tens of thousands of monthly active users. So I'm not sure about in-app advertising, and for that reason I'm a little bit down on the Android operating system as a commercial opportunity, because it doesn't quite add up for me in many ways. Unless you've got a very, very, very good app that's being used phenomenally by extraordinary large numbers of people, then you're not going to make money from it. One of the other points I wanted to make is that a good example, if I may, is to quote what an operator is doing in another market. So in the UK, O2, in my opinion, are getting it right. What they're doing is they have a very, very good portal. It's not an app store, it's a portal. For example, if you are using a prepay phone, pay-as-you-go phone, you top up your phone on your device, and you get an SMS saying, here is your voucher code. Go to our portal and enter this voucher code to win prizes. So there's value add for the consumer. If you don't provide a value add for the consumer, they're never going to come to your portal. If they never come to your portal, you never learn stuff about them, and so it just isn't going to work. So you go to the portal, you put in your voucher code, and you get, I don't know, free weekend calls next weekend or something. The other sort of value and the hook for drawing people into this portal is that you can change what they call your friends and family. So you can change which number you get a slightly better call rate to. For example, you put your wife's number in, or your, some other number. And it's on the portal that you put that number in, that you manage those numbers. If you're going to travel, you can say on the portal, I'm going to go overseas to this country, and it makes sure that you get the very best roaming rates, etc. So there's all these hooks that are drawing consumers into this portal. What they're doing is they're also asking questions every time they give away prizes. And they're gathering information about what apps they consume. So it will know if you're a 25-year-old dude that likes surfing and wakeboarding and stuff. So it can push apps to you that are relevant. So it's promoting apps to people based on their profile and based on their needs, wants, and preferences. But it's not selling them those apps. It's redirecting them to the app stores to go and buy them. And presumably they're making a few pennies on an affiliate model or something. So to Sama's point about I think you're absolutely right. It's about complementing the existing app stores, and I think that's where it's at. But I think O2 are doing it really, really well, because they're gathering that intelligence that we're also hungry for, that data. And the way in which you gather it is give value to consumers, to hook them into your portal to do it. And they're doing that really well, in my opinion.
Thank you, David. Miltos?
Any activity that has to do with the customer providing information about themselves needs to have an incentive for the customer. Otherwise, the customer is not going to do it. I don't agree necessarily with David in the part that the advertising revenues cannot justify the ads. Why I don't agree? Because at the end of the day, it comes down to the app. So if the app is not okay, nobody's going to sponsor that. If the app is not okay, nobody's going to buy anything in-app. So at the end of the day, you need a scale, and this is very important. So one of the aspects that the operators need to think about is if they can on their own do that. So if on their own they can differentiate in terms of scale, because at the end of the day, what is better, to have a MENA offering where the operators are being remunerated based on their size, or to have an operator-specific offering, which at the end of the day does not generate the necessary scale in order to get to any kind of revenues. And this is very specific about smaller operators, probably, not groups, but smaller operators for sure. So one of the things that we need to think about is, A, how can we target a larger audience? And this is not necessarily a single operator's audience. So one of the things that for sure we should discuss about is, does it really make sense for multiple operators to come together and provide the capability to the developers and the ad agencies to utilize information in order to sell? At the end, the money collected is going to go back to the operator, obviously. So this is very important to set the mindset, because now operators are actually competing between each other on this. So it's more about differentiating between the one operator and the other. It's not about really monetizing the advertising. It's not really about generating the scale that's necessary for the advertising. So this is something that we need to think about, and we need to discuss with the operators in order probably to change this mentality. And as I said before, I believe that a good app that sells a lot is going to generate, or that is being downloaded a lot, is going to generate the advertising revenue to justify that. And yes, few apps are going to make it, which is normal. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody can develop everything, but at the end of the day, only few things are going to be liked by the customer, and this is the success criteria.
Great. Well, at this stage, let me open it up to the floor to see if there are any questions. Maybe we have time for 3 questions. The gentleman up front.
One of the ways to be able to target audience, retain loyalty from another way, is to have the telco and the hosting company have their customers eyeball their name so as to build loyalty. How can they do that? By providing, as we're doing, a webmail and mobility like BlackBerry service to every handset and to every handheld unit, smartphone or tablet. We've actually been targeting Mr. Nsebe's and Mr. Demeri's team with such an offering. We see that as a way to retain their loyalty and their customers by providing them a webmail that incorporates Gmail, Yahoo, etc. Within that webmail, you can insert widgets, applications that will ultimately link to app stores, new products, new features, new portals that they can access. We feel that this is one of the key ways to be able to allow the users to have the loyalty of the telco versus the handset or the portal and use it. I mean, the only game I've ever paid for was from Yahoo, because it allowed me to use the mail, and from that prompted me to use that to buy things from them. So one of the ways is to have a telco somehow retain as much audience, customers to eyeball their name. Every day, everybody uses the email, contacts, collaboration. If you're able to attain that, in my opinion, that's a very good way to be able to sell applications, widgets that target different demographics. I mean, a small idea. For the medical industry, as part of your webmail, have a little application for the medical industry, appointments, doctors, education, link to new products, links to new apps.
So your question is, if I may rephrase, you provide for free or for a fee, and use that as a way to get on people's handsets and get them to engage with, say, the mobile portal. Do you agree with that? Have you tried that in your market, Khalid?
I think what Aziz is saying is true to a certain extent. I think you need a reason or a driver for customers to actually go, and for you to actually, off the back of that, expose your apps and content and portal. I think David was also talking about an interesting product which O2 does, which is the recharge and always win, I believe it's called, and where you actually drive customer traffic through recharge, and they obviously go to the site and they always win something, and there you actually expose the apps that, or you cross-sell and upsell the apps that you want to target them. I think that possibly could work for a certain segment of the of your customer base. Certainly, perhaps not all of it, but that could be one of the different ways. But I think creating a driver or a reason for customers to go somewhere and get more value or get something is definitely a smart way to actually get them into your app store as well. So yes, to a certain extent. Whether email is...
We mentioned a lot of reasons why you should be there, what the value add you have. We talked about aggregation, promoting the services. Also, we discussed the billing relationship. You know, the billing by itself, it's very important. It's a key. It's a key barrier for a lot of developers. It's a key barrier for the users. But I think a couple of things we were missing, in my view, in the discussion, and I'd like to highlight them. First of all, we don't know the winner of the future. We say that Apple eventually is there tomorrow. We said that Nokia 3 years ago, so we really don't know. And there is space eventually for you guys to play a stronger role, number one. Number two, we believe that we should not keep this discussion only linked to the mobile devices. If you talk about the smartization at home, the Internet of Things in the future, we talk about 20 billion devices connected to the Internet. Someone has to harmonize the usage of the application on your TV set, on any other device you will have at home. So I think there is a link missing here as well in the app store beyond the mobile device, and we've been focusing only on that so far in the discussion. So that's number one. Number two, I believe that the previous speaker, colleague just mentioned something very important. You have the ability of linking the applications to your traditional communication channels, SMS, etc. And you can bring a lot of value there. So that's one way of extending something that an app store by itself or third party cannot do. And last but not least, which is about monetization, we didn't talk at all about, which is the quality of service. So in my view, if you are in the business of supporting the application, you can develop and integrate the application to your infrastructure, to your network, provide the priority of the service, and that's where the monetization comes. That's, if you think of 5 years ago, Hutchison, for instance, was the first launching a mobile device called Skype, an application on Symbian at the time. And you thought that it's actually a voice over IP call, but it was a TDM call. It was an application, it was a Skype application, but it was a strictly TDM call with a first-class quality, right? And then after the gateway, it was voice over IP. That's an example of how you can monetize by integrating the apps to actually the service and the infrastructure you have and monetize out of that. So I'm missing here the quality of service. And last question eventually I have for you is, what about behaving as an investor, corporate venture capital? If you know what the customer wants, if you have this intimacy, if you can combine it with your classical communication service, if you leverage the advertising day, etc., and you are distributing, promoting in the shops, you have the contact with the consumer there, why not actually investing in this business as well as a corporate venture fund? This is my question.
No, that's a good loaded question. Thank you, Karim.
Comments? And
maybe Samer, first of all, do you agree with Karim's statements? And then two...
I think I do actually. Me and Karim and myself, we had several debates around we call it the multi-screen concept, and he's completely right. The ecosystem that we're building, at least I'm talking about mobile point of view, does not only cover handheld, it covers different screens, including the TV screen, the PC screen as well. So all of these should be incorporated into the ecosystem, and the more time we see now in the market, we see more and more connected TVs are coming. A majority of these connected TVs, they have application stores inside, and those applications, so far I haven't seen any of the operators has gone into that arena, except for I can give an example now with the Salat. They've launched recently with the Salat UAE. They've launched recently with LG their connected TV, and they have different applications on the TV in the name of Etisalat, which people can either buy content from there, purchase content, and I think very soon it will be applications, or developers can develop applications for Etisalat to be sold on that connected TV. So the ecosystem should not only be revolves around handhelds. The second part, which is in the acting as a investment or investing in companies. I think from Mobile's point of view, I think we're pushing hard, and the developer community is one of the key areas which we believe will help us monitor and scout for talents, scout for companies, and scout for applications in which we can probably invest or help launch. So I think, yes, I completely agree with him on the 2 points.
All right. Well, I'm mindful of the time, so unfortunately we don't have one last question.
Yeah, just one small question for the gentleman from the MNOs. Since the market in the Middle East for devices and device OS is very fragmented and you don't control it, how are you going to manage having your own app store? And my second question is, have you looked into an alternative way right now? I mean, we're still talking about, do we need to have like an application, or will we go into more standard way, like HTML5? Because that's give you a lot of feature. I mean, there's a lot of, and you still can be in the game. You don't need application for this.
Yes.
And just one more question. On the App Store, you don't have App Store, you're just merely a developer right now. You're just putting your application either on the iPhone, iPad, the App Store, and or Android. Thank you.
Okay, Khalid, will you answer?
I mean, I think there's 3 points. The first one is talking about how we actually tackle the issue of the operating systems. And I agree, this is a challenge for us to actually have our app stores embedded within those operating systems, not a straightforward task. Merely because a lot of handset operators will ask for a huge commitment or an extra fee or a lot of lead times before you actually do that. That's on the first part. I'm going to probably let Sam answer the second one, but on the last point, we're not in the business of developing apps. We're in the business of collaborating with application development houses. So operators, I mean, for us to actually start, if I understood your point correctly, for us to actually start developing apps in-house is a different line of business for us operators.
He's actually talking about mobile when he mentioned the last
Ah,
point.
okay.
So
Go ahead, you answer that one.
I want to actually answer the HTML point. I think again, I would look at what we're doing as an operator is rather than building a storefront. You know, you have this high-end storefront in Dubai Mall, and you have all of these brands, the Motorola brand, the iPhone brand, and iPhone is a bit the different example because it's a closed ecosystem. But I think soon enough, we don't know who might be player number one in 3 years' time. Like Kareem mentioned, 4 years ago, Nokia had a market share of over 95% in the Saudi market. Now I think they're less than 40. So we don't know where the future is. So what we're trying to do as an operator to create a storefront where we can direct our customers for loyalty purposes, for ease of use, for payment, for different reasons behind it. So and this store will not be only confined into iOS. Tomorrow, like we said, we have training courses in new operating systems. We're trying to actually partner with the WAC, with WAC We're trying to partner with other iOS coming into the market. So it's not only confined into handsets and into certain technology or certain iOS. Now the second question which is we're developing applications. Yes, in certain areas we thought that being there for example, the applications that so far Mobily developed are mainly related to Mobily, which is the Mobily application where customers can go check their their balance, see their calls, file complaints, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, part of the applications that we published on Android and on the iTunes are the applications developed by third parties, not by Mobily. But Mobily has partnered with these developers to be able to publish it and market it for them. So that's what the point of David and the point of Dr. Cullen before is visibility. There are hundreds of thousands applications available. My role now is to start. We have so far launched numerous applications, and alhamdulillah, we're doing really good.
David, maybe one last comment?
I'll be very quick on this. The point about the HTML5, there are certain things you cannot do unless you go native. Depending on the platform and depending on the SDK and the various APIs available, but you cannot necessarily integrate with the calendar, with the phone, with the accelerometer, with things like that. You need to go native to leverage the unique features of the device. So there are limitations to it, but I mean, what we're seeing are things like Apple integrating HTML5 to be used with their SDK, not to replace it. I don't think it will ever replace these things. So that was my point on that. To get the unique features of the device, which often makes for very good apps and is the differentiating factor about apps, you need to go native. The only other thing I'd say is that on Samer's point, I've already had conversation with Samer and his team about how Mobily's strength in being able to help promote and market the sort of things that we're involved in, and I'd very much love to have dialogue with Zain and with all the other telcos on this, because this is our single biggest problem. We are working with local developers and we are creating world-class apps. And we know we are. It's not us being arrogant about it. We're getting reviewed by independent app reviewers in the States and in other markets around the world who are telling us our apps are great. We've got great products coming out. Slower than we'd hoped, but we've got great products coming out. Our biggest problem is marketing and promoting them and making money from them. And that's where I think we can work well together with the operators to leverage their expertise, their strength, their size and power to help us achieve, get over our challenges.
All right. Well, with that, let me conclude the panel and thank the panelists for their time. I think coming up next, networking drinks. I hope many of you will stay to meet the panelists and network. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.